Hello, my name is Yoshi Bauer. Welcome to the Mind Special Needs Connection webinar and podcast series. As a parent of children with special needs and as a professional advocate, I understand the challenge of connecting parents and professionals with the information that they need to serve children and adults with special needs. At My Special Needs Connection, we empower parents and professionals through valuable instruction and insights of experts in the special needs community. We're excited to come alongside you to provide you with information that you need. Let's grow through the exchange of knowledge and the hope of success. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and YouTube channel for new releases. Please enjoy our webinars and podcasts.
A wife of 10 years and a mother of a 6.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. I've been doing ABA for 20 years. So I've had a ton of jobs, especially throughout college. But one of them has always been in the field of ABA. So I actually remember going or being in junior college when I saw a posting for a behaviorist. I didn't know what it was, but it made almost twice as much as I was making working in fast food. So
Right.
I said, hey, I can deal with kids, let me see what this is about. And back then, there weren't too many requirements except a pretty clean background. And I guess, um, seeming like you're, not a creepy person.
Right.
So I remember one of my first days on the job was awful. I had a kid to climb up on a refrigerator. He was like 3 or 4, and his thing was climbing on top of a refrigerator. And so I ran to grab the mom, and the mom doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Spanish. Um, and so even though that was a pretty traumatic intro, I fell in love with it. And one of the reasons I fell in love with it is because I grew up with a special needs foster sister. So when I was 11 years old, a family friend had some issues and their child got displaced. And she had special needs. She had intellectual delay. And I grew up with her from 3 or 4. I remember us being on the same campus for preschool and just always wondering, like, why are you so bad? Like, why do you always have to have your parents called? And, she'd have her good days and we'd play together, but then she'd have times where she was just, as I thought, really, really bad. And I didn't understand it because she looked, like every other kid. And when she was on, she was, a good friend like every other kid. But when she was, off or had her off days, she was a different person. And so when I was 11 years old, she came to live with us in our home. I thought
Oh,
I always
wow.
wanted a sister. And I remember my mom having that conversation with me and my little brother, like, hey, do you want her to come? You know her. And I was like, yeah, I finally get a sister. And I think it was after about 3 days, I was like, yeah, send her back. Because she's too different. But I grew up with her wondering what was going on and why are you like this? And so when I got that first job, it was like a light bulb. Oh my gosh, I understand what's going on with my sister, and I understand what's wrong with her, and that it actually is a real thing. And bigger than that was I might be able to do something. I can do something to help her. And so I fell in love with the field. And like I said, that was 1999, which is honestly more than 20 years ago. And so being a behaviorist is a huge part of who I am. It's a huge part of, how I interact with my own family, my own kids, my husband, even. And so even though I intended to start off like personal who I am, but that just kind of got in there because that's so much of who I am. Now professionally, I continued, to have that job as a behaviorist. And like I said, I had other jobs and other ambitions. I initially planned to be an artist, and so I, put together my portfolio for years and went after that. And then I one day had this epiphany that being an artist and doing art, and I was doing pretty well at it. I was commissioned to do some murals even in the city that I worked in and some projects and stuff like that. So I was kind of on my way. But I just got this feeling that that's not going to help people in the way that my heart wants to help people. And so, like I said, I was, still a behaviorist, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do psychology and, maybe be a therapist or maybe be a social worker. And so as I got towards the end of my bachelor's degree, going for social work, I met someone in that field, and I realized that my heart wouldn't be able to take all of the heartbreak and the trauma that they see, and that their reach as far as helping individuals and the kids is very limited. And so I all of a sudden switched, after that I said, okay, I remember having a conversation with HR at one of the companies that I was working for as a behaviorist. And she said, Chelsea, why do you want to be a social worker? Why do you want to maybe be a therapist? And I said, I want to help people. And she said, do you realize you're helping so many people right now in what you're doing? And I was like, yeah, you're right. And she's like, there's this thing called BCBA, and this is what you need to do. And so I jumped on that path, and I've been a BCBA for almost 10 years now. But like I said, I've been on this path, I feel like my whole life, but definitely all of my professional life. So I'm a BCBA.
Wonderful.
Professionally, I'm a BCBA, and I am actually for 3 years now, or almost 3 years in April, I am owner of an ABA company. We deliver in-home ABA service, and our payer is insurance and private pay to the families.
Well, congratulations. Almost 3 years. That's incredible.
Yes, it has flown by. It's like crazy. He's doing that because he's tired. He didn't sleep well. Tired is not something that I can observe. What I can observe is he's having a tantrum. Why is he doing that? I notice when he has a tantrum, dad runs in the room and says, hey, do you want this? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Here, let me, take you and lay you down. So we look at what we can see and what the outcome is of the behavior. So I would figure out the function of the behavior, the why, and for us behaviorists, there are only 4 whys, which I love that it is that simple to us. So we call those the functions of behavior. Based on those, functions, based on me looking at this tantrum, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and seeing what the kid actually gets out of it, how his environment or her environment changes based on that behavior. Now I'm able to say, okay, this is what the kid needs and wants. So let's say that they are tired. And let's say that, what they need and want is they maybe don't have the appropriate words or communication to be able to express that. So they know when I act out, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, even the therapist are going to try to figure out what's wrong with me and give it to me. They're going to bring food to me. They're going to bring food options to me, as far as like, hey, are you hungry? Do you want to get this? Do you want that? They're going to give me the opportunity to, take a rest or have a break or even a timeout or, take a nap or something like that. So what the function of this would be access to attention. So they want somebody's attention, because once they get their attention, now they're able to get different things. Now, once I figure out what the kid is getting out of this behavior, what I say is, all right, that doesn't work anymore. Tantrums no longer work to get you what you want, but guess what works? You can use this communication board to point to what you need and want, or you can use your words, if they're verbal, to gain access to what you want or the attention, or you can call mom, dad, or point or tap them or whatever. So as a behaviorist, I look at this, I analyze this, and then we get to a point of manipulating this. And I know that sounds like a bad word, but it's what we do. We say, okay, I see what you're getting out of what you're doing, but that's a naughty behavior. That's a maladaptive behavior. Let me show you a better way to get the same outcome, but in a way that nobody's going to tell you, don't do that or stop, or in a way that is socially acceptable. So that's I guess long, but hopefully a very simple or understandable definition of what it is I do as a behaviorist. Now, the other letters means that I actually put in, I have my master's degree, and then I put in all of these hours actually in the field doing this with somebody overseeing me, making sure that I know what I'm doing, that I'm applying these principles appropriately in different settings, that, not just with one kid, I can understand, but there's huge diversity amongst the kids that we work with. And the best type of behaviorist is one that's able to go from this client and not use that one size fits all to the next client. They're able to use those same very basic principles, but now use them in a way that fits for the next kid and their family and their dynamic and that kid's, motivations and whatnot. And so at the end of me doing all those hours, I had to take this extremely stressful test. I remember, like you go in and you're pretty much like pat it down, make sure you're not bringing anything, you're fingerprinted, and the stress is just like, oh my gosh, like my whole life has led to this,
I'm sure.
But I thank God passed it. And the funny thing is about the test, and it's not funny to me, it's ironic that at the time that I took it, and I believe it's still so, that it's not like you get an 80%, you get a 90%, you pass. Nobody knows what it takes to pass, so you're like waiting, just hoping that maybe you did better than everybody else. Maybe everybody else that took it at the same time as you across the country were more stressed out. So, it's like, I think it's like graded kind of more on a curve. It's like, so that was only more stressful. And at that time we had to, a few weeks and get a letter in the mail. And so it was like really intense, but very, very fulfilling to actually get through it.
So within your profession, it's kind of like behavior modification, as it were?
I modify behaviors, yes, but I mean, and that's, that's a very easy way to understand it. And I think it definitely falls generally within that. But I think the biggest thing about behaviors is that we don't just modify the behavior, but we teach new replacement behaviors. So we don't just say, for example, with the tantrum, we don't just say, hey, don't have a tantrum. Just say that you're upset instead, but we teach a different behavior. Maybe instead of being upset about it at all, actually don't be upset. Actually see it in a different way, or so we're always looking to give the child a replacement so that they no longer need to engage in that behavior.
Thank you for sharing that distinction. I really like what you're talking about, kind of dodging sometimes IEP meetings. From my own very limited experience, I can see the dynamics of obviously these teachers and these staff members. It's hard work, to be in their position, and it's also hard work being a parent, and it's hard work being a professional who's coming into the IEP meeting to give their own observational data. And so it's all of these positions are very challenging, and I see sometimes that things can be contentious, and it's cool to see that you kind of subvert that tension.
Yeah. You want to know my best strategy?
Yes, ma'am.
Bring goodies. I'm going to tell you this for real. Okay, so I have been to so many IEPs. I remember one IEP, they literally scheduled a lunch in because they knew it was crazy intense and long. And, the district had their attorney or law person to come, and he brought a book. He brought a law book and set it right in front of him.
Oh,
and this is just the most extreme, most intense. So the energy is usually, the parents feel like, okay, it's me against the school. And the school feels like sometimes, just from my own experience and my own friends, the school sometimes feels like it's us against this parent that just wants to grab everything and doesn't really know what's best for their kid and doesn't believe that we're trying to do the best. Sometimes I've been to some wonderful schools that are just like, hey, like we're all on the same page, and you feel that united energy. But I'm going to say at least 70% of the time it's tense. And so what I do as a professional is I make sure that I don't pair myself with the parent as far as getting there at the same time as the parent. And I also make sure that I get there a little bit early so that I can choose a seat that is on the other side of the table. I really want the school to feel like and to know, and I want my behavior, what they can see and observe about me. I want them to know that, hey, I'm here for you guys. Also, I have relationship with the parent, you know that, right? They invited me and I'm there with them 20, our staff is there 20 hours a week or 15 or whatever. But I want to kind of break that down a little bit. And so I literally will choose a seat that is intermingled with the school staff. I will generally, depending on how intense it is, and I already know that the parents have had issues with the school or they're going to be presenting issues, that cues me to which goodies I bring, how good they are. um, and I make a little bit of small talk, with them to try to like diffuse a little bit. Oh, here comes the professional that's going to be on the parent side and try to fight against us. And I got to be honest, that generally works. And I've seen the difference in me kind of having that proactive strategy as opposed to walking in at the same time with the parent. And, I've seen a difference in the school staff looking to me, hey, tell me what you're seeing at home. What do you think we should do about this? And there seems to be more invitation into conversations as opposed to, okay, wait until we get to you,
Right.
So these are just over all of these years, some things that, I do now.
Wow. I mean, it's pretty profound how, these subtle gestures really can cause a serious shift in the atmosphere of these meetings and really at the core of it, how much good you can actually do for this child.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy for to feel defensive because, everyone truly is in there, generally speaking,
Yeah.
for the same goal, but it's
Yeah.
hard when there's complicated angles involved.
Yes. Yeah. And just remembering that we're all there for the child and for the child's benefit. And like you said, I mean, we're all wanting to help this child progress, but we all have our different angles. And that does not mean and does not need to mean that we're at odds with each other or one way is right. It means we're there for collaboration. And so just being so open to, let me understand your point of view. Wow, that's interesting. And I really, really look for these as opportunities to learn more about this child. And for me personally, to learn more, more diverse methods that I can use with this child. And even some of my other clients, maybe it's not even this particular child. So I go in with a heart and a mind of, wow, here's an opportunity for me to learn, as opposed to here's an opportunity for me to let them know or to show them. And then when I get that invitation, believe me, I love teaching. And I
Hmm.
love, being able to give examples. And I've had teachers to kind of wait and stay after and be like, hey, so I have this other kid in my classroom that's doing this. What do you think I should do?
Right.
And I just love that opportunity to be able to collaborate. And all of our brains work differently, especially in our different training and our different schooling. And to be able to like get insight from somebody that, does have their education in, a different thing is just, it makes us a fuller person going back to the progress of our clients and of our kids and our families. One of the things that we do at our center is I train the parents in practically, how can you do this? We're sitting in front of your kid for, 2, 3, 4 hours, and we're doing this goal, we're doing that goal, we're doing it in this day, this way. The kid is performing with us, but how can I now say, parent, without you sitting there in front of your kid exactly the same way that we do, how can you maintain this throughout your day and throughout your life? So making ABA relevant to a real parents every day. That's the type of parent training that we do at Stepping Stones, because that's the kind of parent training that's maintainable. And when I do that, so mostly all of our clients have, it's not an only child situation. A few of them are, but most of them have siblings, and most of the parents actually have lives. They're married, and so they have another person to deal with in their life, or they have work situations or whatever. And so when I say, okay, parent, this is your goal, and this is the way that I'm going to support you in doing it, I consider, well, they have 3 other kids. So how can this be relevant to those other kids also, even though it is the need of my client? How can I make this something that the parent's going to be like, okay, I'm going to do that, and not feel like, oh, I'm neglecting all the rest of my life to come and do this thing with my kid that you guys are already doing anyway. So why do I need to do it? And
right.
so,
It's practical.
Yeah, practical, functional, and it fits into their life and it fits into their dynamic. For example, different cultures is something that I have to deal with and I have to consider. And I remember probably 6-7 years ago, I had a client, and this was when I worked for another company, and it was part of our protocol. We'd go and pull the goals that we're going to do for this client at this age and stage and whatever. And the goal was doing chores. And so we're working on doing chores, and with the therapist there, and I was supervising with the therapist there, the kid could do the chore, but parent taking data, did he do the chore yesterday, day before, whatever, when we weren't here? No. And so after a few months, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Okay, the kid's able to do it with us, but he doesn't do it with them. What's going on? And so I got this bright idea, and I sat down with the mom and dad, and I said, when your kid, gets to be 18 or 21 or how old, out of the house or on his own, do you expect him to do chores on his own? And to my surprise, mom's like, no, I'm going to come and do it for him because that's our culture.
Wow.
And I was like, hey. This was one of my first insights to make sure that what you're trying to impose on this child is something that, his family, his life, his culture supports and maintains. Otherwise, why am I even teaching him to do his own laundry at 7 when he's never going to have to do his own laundry? Because mom's going to do it, and then he's going to get married, and that person's going to do it. And if he doesn't get married, they're going to hire somebody to do it because guys don't do their own laundry, And so this was really, really impactful and insightful to me to make sure that when I'm introducing goals for my client, they're goals that are meaningful to the parents, but also that are going to be necessary to this family and also maintainable to the family. So that's how I deal with our parent interaction, our parent training. Now, I have been at other companies where it's been like that struggle of let's get parents involved. Why aren't they involved? But I don't have that struggle at Stepping Stones because I partner with the parents in, hey, parent, I know I need to teach you this principle, but tell me what's meaningful in your life so that when I teach you this principle, it's going to stick. You're going to want to and be motivated to actually engage in it and learn it. And now I'm able to check off, okay, you learned this principle in ABA, but now you're able to check off, wow, I have this new skill in my life that I actually want to do because it was something I was struggling with before, and it's not just imposed on me.
Well, I can certainly say I'm really impressed with, the attitude you bring forth from your company and the perspective that you have professionally as a parent, as a specialist, as a business owner. Really very impressed. It's almost like when you're saying these things, of course you should do it this way. When there's a little bit of brilliance, it seems obvious. The whole not one size fits all approach of trying to find what application really fits with these clients and with these people you care about. Very impressive. Very impressive. Is there anything else you kind of want to go over or mention or bring up that before we get into the questions?
So I actually did have something that like I said, I'm really excited about nowadays, and it is our play center. And so, like I said, there are in other states, besides California, this is way more common. But so we're in-home ABA company. So 95% of our sessions, we go into the client's home. And I just love that model because we're able to wrap ourselves around and within what the family has to deal with, and, teach them those skills that are going to be meaningful, because this is what I do every day. It's not like sending my kid to school, you know what I mean? So I love that. But what I found to be missing as my kids got what I call social ready, and I'm air quoting again, I found to be missing was the opportunity for parents to learn in a semi-controlled but a safe space and place. How do I get my kid to interact with other kids appropriately? And so there were several months where I would go out different places, in different cities in the community, and rent out like those party spaces, like the kids go and meet together and, have a party and that sort of thing. But even with that, it wasn't my own space. I didn't have control over, a lot of the things there. We were on a time limit. And so, bright idea again, oh my gosh, I need my own space. So our space is set up with all sorts of fun playthings. We have 4 different rooms. We rotate the kids through. Now that in itself is really exciting to me. Like one of our sessions last month, we actually had the parents to come down and not interact with their kid, but watch how the staff facilitated interaction with other kids. And what I mean by a safe place for families and parents, and I laugh again. I have so many examples that I think of, but I'll give you this example. So once, and a lot of companies do this, they'll go out into the community to a park and they'll be like, okay, we're going to work on social. Let's go to the park so we can meet kids we don't know. And so I remember, going out with a family, and the dad was there, and he's very excited about his kid interacting with other kids. And we'd be working on things at home. This is how you're going to say, my name is whatever. And, I like your shirt, and can I play or whatever, right? So I see this dad just full of excitement. Okay, we're going to do this. Ooh, there's some kids over there. And, we're parent training, right? So we want to give the parent the space to do it and just support him. And so the dad comes over and he's, trying to facilitate interaction between his son and this other group of kids. And I'm standing back watching, and the staff has given the dad a little bit of space so that he can actually be the one on the front line. And I noticed that the dad's, doing all the right things, like, hey, tell him you like his shirt and da-da-da. And I noticed other parents from around the park that I didn't notice before. Now they're coming closer and closer and closer to this bunch. And I was like, oh, wait, it looks like a creepy guy situation. And I was like, oh, okay, didn't think that out before, and so like for a mom, and this is just the society we live in, if it's the mom, no big deal, what's that lady doing? Okay, that's fine. But then the dad, it's like, and I literally, like, there was another dad that was there with his kid, and his arms were crossed, and he's about 3 feet from his kid, and just trying to make eye contact with my client's dad, like, hey, let me let you know I see.
Right.
So, I had to go in and intervene and try to diffuse the situation a little bit. But I was like, oh man, now what am I going to do? And so what I realized is that I need that controlled environment, whereas everybody that walks through these doors, they have the understanding that this is a learning space. Things are not going to go the way that you expect all the time, but it's okay. We all have the right intentions, and it's a learning space. And also, for everybody to know, there is no weirdos in here. We're all in here for the same cause, and so when one parent goes up to another kid and says, hey kid, I like your shirt, how about you play with us? It's not like, okay, let's call somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the other thing is that now there's been times in those types of situations where, everything's going great. The kid is playing with another kid, or my client, he goes up to another kid, or she goes up to another kid. Hey, my name is Susie. What's your name? Can we play? And the other kid looks at him and, like, spits at them and runs away. And it's like, oh, wait, now my client is not reinforced for them doing everything right, because I didn't know that was, that kid was going to be a jerk. You know what I mean? And so in our play center, we're able to have control over, like, okay, I can intervene with this other kid. This staff is intervening with that kid. So that in itself, to me, is very exciting. But what's more exciting is that I have this space as an inclusive space. So that means that I invite kids that are are neurotypical. I call them non-clients, or I call them peer mentors. But these are the other kids that I, want my clients to learn the appropriate social skills from. So a lot of times, like, one of the other things that I've done at other companies and even within Stepping Stones in the beginning is I would try to pair this client with that client. And I'd say, hey, you guys are pretty much, you have a common interest. You're pretty much around the same age. Come together and play. And I'd be like, okay, nobody's making eye contact with each other. Nobody's, asking the other an appropriate question. And then it's pretty much almost like, okay, the therapist is with that one, therapist is with that one. And now we're just puppeting through the kids. And so what I have in the center is I have non-clients that have appropriate behaviors. I only invite kids that, seem to have caring, compassion, kindness, and also an interest to help others. Invite them, and we're able to tell them, okay, we have a friend that's coming, and I think you're probably going to have to say hi to them 2 times. And if they still don't respond, you're going to go closer and you're going to say hi and you're going to wave. And let me give you insight. He really loves Mickey Mouse. So you're going to say something about Mickey Mouse. And so we're able to give our clients the appropriate social experience through and with another kid. One of the shortcomings, I guess, I would say, of ABA when it comes to social skills and the way that at least I've seen it traditionally taught is that we teach our kids to engage with adults. Adults are much easier to engage with because we are generally predictable and we are generally doing all of the right things. When they engage with other kids, another kid may roll their eyes.
Right. There's no rules with kids.
Yeah. And so at our center, I love that, I just love that. And this is not something that I can find. I hope it's out there somewhere else, and I would love to connect with it myself to get more, insight. But as far as like really and intentionally pairing, our special needs kids or our kids that do have the social deficits, intentionally pairing them with the kids that are displaying those social skills appropriately, that's not something that I see done. And that's something that I am just, I'm trying to see how I can even grow that opportunity even bigger. And I have a little, little card that, like, when I meet kids or families or whatever, and their kids behave appropriately, I invite them. And what I have on there is, good for your kid, good for my kid. My kids engage in this because it's not only good for the special needs kid or the kid that does have the social deficits or the intellectual, differences. It's not only good for them to learn how to interact with the other kids, but it's really great for the other kids, the kids that are what we call typical, to learn when I see a friend at the park and they're playing by themselves and they're playing this repetitive play, what can I do? Well, obviously they're at the park because their parents want them to interact, or maybe they want to interact. What can I do? I can go over and I can say, hi, can I play with you? If they don't answer, I don't walk away and say they're mean and rude. If they don't answer, then I say it again, and I think maybe they didn't understand. So I see this as an opportunity to bring understanding, kindness, and compassion, and even give those type of mentoring social skills to our other kids, so that it becomes like in my heart and my vision and my dreams is that this becomes a thing where kids grow up realizing we're all different, but we all have something to offer each other. If I see this kid and they're doing this repetitive action, I'm not going to walk away or be with my friends and say, oh, they're weird, let's look at them, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that. I'm going to say, oh, maybe if I go and tap also repetitive, then I can say hi to them, and then maybe we can play something together, and then maybe we can actually pretend like we're playing drums together. Like, I really want to be able to bring awareness to the other families, the other parents, that even when kids do something different, there's still an opportunity to engage with them. And let's teach kids how to not only engage with kids that are going to make eye contact and are going to say, hey, my name is whatever, but even if they're not verbal, if they're in a play situation, they probably want to play. Let's learn how to facilitate that interaction between the kids.
And it's so much more of a fully integrated um, picture. When you have children on different levels, it's key to becoming a more fully formed adult as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I 100% believe in, I know it's not, uh, it's, I, it breaks my heart that, the special needs community is supported only generally by the special needs community. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And is understood by, um, and it's, I don't know, like integration is something, and inclusiveness is something that I really, really, really would love to see so much more in my community. There's so many times where I go out and I'm doing an observation of a family. And so, I may not look like them. I may not even look like I'm with them or following them. And being that 10 or 15 steps back, I'm able to see how the rest of my community, how the rest of society looks at them,
right.
and their lack of understanding. And I've had I've had some individuals, some non-clients, to come and to interact and to be part of our support group and kind of just get that insight to what some other families are going to. And mind you, I do not label. So when kids come through the door, the kids don't know who's a client, who's not a client. The parents don't know who's a client, who's not a client.
Mm,
So I don't even put that label on, like, oh no, this is like this is an outsider or this is an insider, or whatever. But they're able to see that different perspective. I've had parents, of non-special needs kids to tell me, wow, thank you so much for that, because I was that jerk, that jerk kind of parent in Target saying, why don't you raise your kid better? You know what I
mm,
mean? And it's, I feel like I get to kind of be on both sides, you know what I mean? And it's just, I just really want the rest of our community to understand that, the special needs parent has a struggle. They have a real struggle and they're fighting very hard, and their kid is making progress. But just because they don't fit into the box, or just because they're not behaving as most would feel is socially appropriate, does not mean that the parent isn't trying, or isn't, a lot of times the parents are doing a better job parenting than, the typical kids, because it takes that much more
mhm.
effort and energy and diligence from them. And so I guess it's kind of my mission now, and I'm actually reaching out to try to figure out different ways where I can just include everybody into our experience and into each other's experience, and just like, help, I guess, help families not to feel so isolated and judged. Uh, yeah.
I agree with you. I think that within the special needs community, it's a very tight knit community, especially from where I'm at in San Diego. I'm very proud of our community coming together, um, being able to organize events and network, and give each other, the space to be able to voice their concerns and their fears and their hopes. It's a really beautiful thing to see. But like what you were saying, beyond that, there's not a whole lot of inclusivity of the broader social um, community. And I think that there's definitely so much room for us to expand, and people to get a better appreciation and understanding of the special needs community.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. I'll add to that. So sometimes I will just relate to parents. I say, if you had a child that had a obvious physical disability, they're in a wheelchair or they're physically incapable and people can see it. And I've seen it happen. People, you're coming through the door of the store, someone will run and open the door for you.
Mhm.
They'll go out of their way to try to be kind to you because they see that your journey's walk is more challenging than theirs. But when you have that child that does not have any physical sign, then those same people will literally, make rude comments, intentionally make rude faces to you to try to make you, feel like something's wrong with you.
Hmm.
That breaks my heart to
Of
pieces,
course.
because like I said, I have been with the families, and I've literally been right there and heard people, make comments, and they don't even know that this family is trying so hard. Their kid gets out of school, now they're spending another 3 hours, and they're actually in the store working on behaviors. But these individuals, they don't understand that because they can't see it. And there's just, even within families, like one of our last parent trainings, we were talking about, diagnosis and if to tell your child, and da da da. And like I said, sometimes I'm very narrow in my thoughts, and like I get these bright ideas from somebody just saying something so obvious. But one of the parents was like, yeah, can we do that for my mom? Because my mom says that, we go to family functions, and her child has been diagnosed, I think, for about 2 years now. And we go to family functions, and my mother will tell all the rest of the family, no, 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 don't touch him. He's sick. No, no, no.
Hmm.
And this child has autism, and so it's like,
Right.
even ignorance, not even broader within our community or our society, but even ignorance within families, and how that makes the parent, feel so, I mean, just the space that they're in and the strength that it takes to even get out of that space and say, hey, I'm going to do something, to help my kid. But the fact that it's not their fault as much as it's a parent's fault that their child is born with a physical, difference in their ability.
Right.
And I wish that our community could see that, because there's so much, there would be I feel like there would be so much more opportunity for growth and progress if the parents had that one less thing to think about. When I go out, I'm going to be judged.
Hmm.
When I go out, I'm going to disturb other people. When I go out, they're going to make these comments to me. They're going to make these comments to my child. They're going to make me feel bad. They're going to make my family, my child feel bad. And now they have to kind of maneuver through this very narrow space, and still try to do the best by their kids and teach their kids and progress them.
Right. That makes total sense. I agree with you. I can even say for myself, within my own life, I feel like I've been a part of the special needs community more actively so in the past 4 years than before that. I have family members who have special needs, and both of my parents happen to be having careers that interact with the special needs community. But before I really jumped in myself, I would say I was living a more limited existence in terms of
Mm.
there was a lack of vibrancy that I really did find within the special needs community. And I think even if I'm not being malicious towards people with special needs, or making comments or this or that, I'm still missing such a such a fun part of my life, has been
Mhm.
interacting with these people that oftentimes are a little bit different than I am. And I don't know,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
the most fun that I have all year is probably at the Down Syndrome Association Gala. I mean,
Uh,
we're just having a blast. And I think our
yeah.
our society could really have benefits just from having those sort of inclusive experiences. I think that there's real benefits to everyone involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I had very, very recently, within the last couple of weeks, I had, the parent support group and parent training. And one of the individuals that was there, and like I said, I don't label my parents, so nobody knows, and one of the individuals that is not a special needs parent, his, kiddo is neurotypical. um, he told me, because one of the things that I do is I kind of go around the room, say 3 great things about your kid,
Hmm.
um, and one of the things that, you know he actually told me is that, wow, when this parent or that parent said this about their kid, he's like, you know what, I was thinking about it, and I've seen their kid a few times, and I was like, yeah, that is beyond the average, and that's amazing, that your kid has that. And he was like, but I felt bad that I didn't notice that before they said it, but when they said it, I was like, wow, you're right. And so like I really try to empower the parents of the special needs, but also the non-special needs, to look for the differences that are positive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I try to start the families off at a very young age, like 6, 7. And I get this idea, this philosophy from Temple Grandin, starting the parents off to think about, what is your child good at? And this would be a whole nother conversation about, pushing your child putting 80% of your energy towards what they're good at instead of what they're bad at, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I try to help the parents to like, not just look at their child and think about how they don't measure up. And this is, again, air quoting, how they're not, going along or on the same level as another kid that is their age, for negative things, and we work on those, but to always be mindful of, my kid is extraordinary at that. My kid is really good at this. My kid is even to give them a little bit of arrogance. What is your kid better than the average kid at?
Right.
Any other kid on your block, what would your kid just like blow him out of the water about? He may not be able to communicate verbally with them, but he can do a 1,000-piece puzzle without breaking attention,
Right.
and helping parents to look for that bright side, and not just look for it to like, oh, I'm not so bad, but look for it like, wait a minute, my kid has an extraordinary skill and gift in this area. Let me think about how that may be his path or his career or his gift to the community.